to be. If I had a team of 10 people and 80% of that work has been automated, I'm probably going to have a team of 2 people at the end of this. You can have a $1 billion company, which is 10 people in a garage, because they are capable, they're agile, and they have all those tools that they can use.
Change isn't just held in structures, it's held in beliefs as well.
Hello and welcome to another incredible edition of Generating being shot live at Learning Live, the AI edition. And I am joined today by...
I'm Dr. Ashwin Mehta, and I am the Chief AI Strategist for the LBI and the founder of Methodology, which is an AI and tech consulting business.
Thank you. And...
I'm Julian Stodd. I'm a researcher and writer. My work explores the context of the social age and how our organizations adapt within it. And I'm also the founder of Sea Salt Learning, which is a global consulting business.
Excellent. And you can already see this is going to be an incredible edition. We have 2 intellectual heavyweights joining the podcast today. So let's get straight into it. Ash, let's start with you.
Sure.
Man of the hour, very busy boy at the minute. Tell us, what are you hearing? What's most exciting you at the moment?
So the thing that's most exciting me, of course, is that we have just announced that we have a platform where we can have some kind of measurable benchmarking data around how ready organizations are across a number of dimensions, which are part of the readiness model. And why is that exciting? It's exciting. It should be exciting for companies because now they can start to measure things and maybe get some actions that they can go and address and benchmark themselves again. So it's good for them. Me, it's exciting because I like playing with data, and I'm just excited in anticipation of being able to play with that data and see some interesting things.
Yeah, nice. I mean, data has been the bane of the learning industry for a long time. I think everyone's been talking about ROI, but AI feels like it's sort of a rocket up everyone's bum to crack on and solve some of these challenges properly. I mean,
controversial opinions, right? Let's start with those. I think talking about ROI is very different from taking action on measuring data and figuring out if you have some kind of model that relates to things that you do in learning interventions through to the things that matter for businesses. So share price, revenue, and things like that. And it's a difficult model to build if you don't have the right information. But measuring things operationally is always possible. Businesses measure things, right? We know that they do. And I think more recently, the conversation has started to pivot towards business performance. But observationally, I've probably only seen this conversation happening in the last, year, 2 years. I think when you said, this is a difficult thing that people have been talking about for a very long time, I agree. Talking about, but doing something about it, the mindset shift, I've always seen that in the industry in the last couple of years, which is a positive thing.
Absolutely. There's a lot of conversation about how AI might free up people's time to focus on some of that deeper understanding of the organization that they work with and trying to then create powerful things that will truly shape business outcomes. Julia, from your side, you do a lot of work with leaders, particularly in this space. What are you hearing?
So it's interesting. I'm trying at the moment to keep my lens on this as broad as possible. And we're certainly seeing a lot of activity. There's a lot of busyness. A lot of it is focused around optimization and efficiency, that kind of first point of adoption. If you look more broadly, there are kind of 3 models of change or 3 frames of change which we're thinking about. There's that first one is today, what can we do better? How can we have a better spade? That kind of efficiency thing. It's kind of easy to buy. It's understandable. It fits within the existing paradigm, existing structures of power and leadership, existing organizational structure. Then there's the kind of project-based evolution of the business model. So that's not what we do today, but we can plan it. We can put a project around it. We can do something within it. There's a lot of interest around that as well. But then you can look at a third frame, which is what would abstract or break or fracture the fundamental model. And that's quite interesting because the dominant model of disruption for the last few years has been asymmetric. So not a big organization fighting another big organization, so much as an asymmetric, typically tech-enabled disruptor stretching out the value chain and then biting a chunk out of it. So I think we get this rather unusual situation where organizations are very busy doing the things that are safe for them to do, which is to focus on the today and focus on this efficiency and optimization. I think we need to have strength in two areas. We obviously need to do the stuff today. That's the table stakes to stay in the game. But we need to get really good at broadening the lens, taking a strategic perspective, and then thinking what that means for our structures, for our leadership, for our individuals at scale.
Do you think there's going to be that moment of disruption where it just has to happen because, genie's out of the box, everything has been disrupted, so we've got to form? Or you think there is going to be time to put in measured responses to this inevitable disruption?
I would say that there are a couple of things which we know are almost certainly true. So one is that organizations fail. That's the default outcome, really. All organizations fail. And often they persist beyond failure. So they sort of fail fundamentally before the market puts them out of business. So I think there's a real risk of organizations failing in that way at the moment. And their fear of that is preventing them being very brave and very bold. So you've got that kind of perspective going on. And then what do I feel optimistic about? I think there is a great deal of experimentation going on, but there is much less thought about structures of sense making and understanding and what we do with it. So I'm pretty clear that organizations need a broad capability to understand and do something about this, not just sort of one hero that's trying to drive change. So I'm kind of sitting somewhere between optimism and pessimism right now.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's one of those things you can't get change when it's someone else's responsibility. And I think that's true with AI, right? I mean, everybody needs to be out experimenting, trying and trying to understand how what they do can be improved and enhanced.
Yeah, not just busy, but having these sense-making structures that can hear weak voices, that can aggregate that up into some kind of meaning or insight and then do something with it.
If we get the data in place, is that going to give us some of these, good silent voices and let us hear from different parts of the business that we might not have done traditionally?
Well, the other side of what Julian's talking about, if we think about the market, is that we have a leveling of the playing field. We have the democratization of the tool sets. We have now effectively equality or equity between small businesses, big businesses. You can have a $1 billion company, which is 10 people in a garage, because they are capable, they're agile, and they have all those tools that they can use. So it kind of disrupts market competition in a way that we haven't really seen before. And if you apply that in an organizational setting, we have probably over the last 2 years seen in organizations, everybody is fighting to do AI first. Everybody's fighting to claim victory over something that it's mine. We've done it, right?
Yeah, it's a space race, right? This is where we are. It's like that out here at Learning Live, trying to show that we've got the best AI voice practice coach. But it's not. It's the same idea. The simple idea is being done. But how do you drive differentiation across all of those different services?
Yes, and differentiation's slightly problematic because right now we have multiple departments who do basically the same thing. When we think about a big business, they probably have internal, external communications, they probably marketing, they probably have learning, then maybe have some other functions. And all of those functions have basically the same workflow, which is do some kind of qualification, enter some data on some kind of platform, create some kind of content, whether it's a response to an RFP, a proposal, or it's some e-learning, or it's some marketing stuff that goes out on social media. Basically, your workflow's the same. And none of those departments right now, for me, have a distinct point of differentiation if you apply an AI lens to what they do. Operations, manufacturing, things that are haptic or have a psychomotor element to them, they are different. Of course, they got to be different. We need to be considering robotics in that space rather than AI if we're going to have this same discussion. So this point of differentiation is key. So if you have democratization and the lack of differentiation, how do you ensure that everybody's voice is being heard? And I agree with you that yes, everybody's voice can now be heard, but everybody's basically shouting meaningless things at the same time. So nobody's voice is heard, right? And I think that's going to clarify itself at some point. Not yet.
I mean, I agree with that. I think what is interesting in my broader work on the context of the social age, I would see how social and collaborative technologies have shifted some structures of power. There's a general rebalancing of power between organizations and individuals. We see radical connectivity is drawing learning and identity and belonging out of the organization and into these kind of new and emergent structures. We're seeing this general shift in what we need for our organizations to be. And, my work in the book on the socially dynamic organization, I argue that I think we are in this transition point to a truly post-industrial organization, because most of the structures of organization and hence structures of power and learning and so on are still on this old model of collectivism, system, process, effect at scale. That's how many of our global organizations, even tech organizations, are structured. It's essentially the same as somebody that's digging things out of the ground and smelting iron and sending it out on canals around the country. We still have that model, but that's led us into structures of role definition and task and understanding skills, understanding effectiveness, which are kind of outdated. So we need to think at a fundamental organizational design level. If we disaggregated or unbundled many of these things that feel very familiar and safe and understood, how would we put them back together? And some organizations are doing that in interesting ways. Organizations like MetLife with its opportunity marketplace over in New York, they are unbundling task and role and hence essentially structures of team and notions of leadership. So having individuals able to bid for work, having emergent collectives able to do work, notions of contextual leadership where somebody could be a leader in a formal sense on Monday but not on Tuesday. This stuff isn't the answer, but it may be the stuff that helps us understand that what came before doesn't have to be what comes next. One of the features I explored in Engines of Engagement is that generative AI is inherently transdisciplinary. It translates between these legacy vertically segmented structures so that the technology is transdisciplinary, and we need organizations that have this greater fluidity too. And that will have all sorts of impacts because they're likely to be a bit smaller, more lightweight and more permeable. And that challenges all sorts of legacy notions of what an organization is, what a job is, what leadership is. And I think that's upon us right now. Yeah. This isn't some far future idea.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's sort of struggling to prove value and worrying about how you're going to prove the efficiency gains of AI, right? I think that's a challenge. Or CEOs have sort of gone out and said we're going to drive AI efficiencies with AI. And I think it's because, well, people are still scared that they're going to lose their jobs. And the narrative has been, hey, I won't replace you. Someone who can use AI will. But is that going to come from someone in a different team that sort of has the same workflow as you? And now Gen AI is going to give you that cross-disciplinary knowledge, but you'll still be functional within this organization. Is that narrative true? What do you think? What are the other reasons why people can't prove the efficiency today?
Should I go first or?
You go first.
Is the narrative true? So I think this narrative needs to be squashed, right? I think I see this a lot on LinkedIn. A lot of people saying it's not about replacing people. It's about augmenting people, right? Great. Depends. It really depends. And what Julian was just saying about unpacking some of the formal structures and the systems and all of this kind of thing that we have in our organizations. If we think about the value chain of an organization, stuff comes in, stuff goes out, value happens. There are a lot of processes in the middle. People affect those processes. You have an operating model, and this is how companies work. Now, in the past, we have treated people basically like robots. So it is process, go follow process. Don't think about what you're doing, just make sure it's standard. And not everything in every business operates that way. Some things are created and some things require judgment. Mm-hmm. But broadly, in an organization that is fairly heavy on the system side, typically heavily regulated industries, we don't necessarily want or allow people to use their critical thinking and judgment. Mm. Now, nearly everything that a knowledge worker does on a laptop, on a screen, within an operating system, within a set of technologies that are interconnected. If it's standardized, if it's a process, it can be automated.
Yeah.
Now, I've just made that assertion. If the role that somebody has, everything that they do is a process, and we have to make a value judgment on those processes anyway. Some processes are highly valuable, and we really want to automate them because we want to get standardized outputs. Some processes, actually, in the new world, we don't really need them anymore. So we have this value judgment as well. Now, if you have people who are doing things that either don't have value or can be automated, and let's say I have a team of 10 people, and all of them, 80% of their work I can automate. Sounds great so far, right? I'm freeing up their time to do creative thinking and look out the window and think profound thoughts about all the things that we could do in society. And that sounds great. And it sounds great on LinkedIn, and it sounds great if we're talking about it in a podcast. But the cold hard reality of business is always going to be, if I had a team of 10 people and 80% of that work has been automated, I'm probably going to have a team, 2 people at the end of this. So the narrative that AI won't take your jobs, I'm only talking about automation. This isn't even AI yet. That narrative needs to be scrutinized. There needs to be nuance around it, because the other side of this, of course, is upskilling, right? If we say, in the new world, we have multi-agent frameworks, we have human hierarchies that match, we have human AI synergy, everybody's working like best of friends, and everything works like some kind of utopia, then the skills that people need, the things that they're going to be doing are going to be what? Critical thinking, judgment, all of these things that, again, are almost a parody or a trope on LinkedIn, and other social media is available. Just talking about it, right? These things are said time and time again. And normal distribution is a factor in any population. Anything that you can measure is normally distributed. Are we really going out there and saying, AI won't take your job regardless of what you do, and the thing that you will go and do is going to be critical thinking and judgment, which we know the capabilities are going to be normally distributed. Some top performers will have the jobs, others maybe won't. So there are realities to that discussion as well, which I think we all shy away from. So I think there's way more nuance in this debate than is usually talked about.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, and a lot of the big orgs don't change that quickly, though, do they? I mean, there's still got some processes. Big global businesses are still handballing paper documentation from conversations with customers. I mean, it's still happening. I mean, even those very basic things you'd think would be digitized today aren't necessarily digitized due to legacy tech stacks. But do you think there's other cultural barriers that might stop this?
Yeah, I mean, organizations are built not to change. It's not sort of accidental. We deliberately design our organizations so that they don't accidentally change on Thursday afternoon. So we codify all sorts of stuff to prevent that happening. But change isn't just held in structures, it's held in beliefs as well, in our conception of what an organization is. So, a simple perspective is any narrative that says AI will deliver an outcome which is safe and controlled and sustained and will allow you to continue doing lots of what you've done before is utterly naive. I mean, AI is going to decimate most of what we understand and know. And if we take a broader perspective, the moment in the strategic AI work I'm doing, I'm trying to build out some frameworks that help us think this through. So one would say, what is our relationship with higher order thinking and sophisticated artifacts? So higher order thinking is kind of not just descriptive. It's like, comparing things, bringing new experience to bear, looking at patterns, spotting trends, these like higher order effects. Well, really, AI can take all of that away from us. And that's half of what we expect leaders and indeed our humans more broadly to do, higher order thinking. Sophisticated artifacts are documents and spreadsheets and reports and strategic plans. That's the other half of what we expect them to do. It's very hard without employing human exceptionalism, which is always a naive approach, to find anything that AI isn't going to impact in some way. So that then leads us into a sort of a second framework that says, what overarching container do we believe the future will sit within? So one model is a socio-cultural model. That's like society as it surrounds us. It says technology is a tool. You give me a better drill, a better spade, a better laptop, and I'll do my job better. This is technology as utility, but the dominant model is social and cultural. a more dysfunctional model is a kind of techno-social model that says it flips that the other way round. This is not technology as utility. This is technology as the robot overlord, which will disrupt everything and wreck society. Well, for some people, that's utopia, but in general, that's not the outcome we want. So we end up almost inevitably talking about an anthropo technic model. So humans plus machines, something synergistic. It sounds pretty good. It will protect enough of what it means to be human that we'll still have jobs and we'll have societies, but we will be radically enabled, which is what the technology promises us. So it's easy to get to that level of thinking. And we talk about having an AI on the board, and we talk about having, humans as the bosses of AI. But then you find the competitive advantage may come when the AI runs the board, or when the AI is scoring people and allocating them. So what if we're using AI to say, you're not very good at this, you are very good at this, and I don't care that you're the CEO, and I don't care that you're a graduate, you should do this because you do it better. Then we start to erode structures of identity and structures of power, which is what causes humans to lash out. So find at a strategic level, we should start by thinking about not what can we have, but what do we want? And then how do we achieve it? And how do we create the types of organizations within the society that we want? But we should always be aware, whenever people say, what do you think the next stage of AI will be? It's going to be a small number of people making an absolute ton of money at the cost of a lot of other people. I mean, that's been the dominant model of technological evolution from the industrial. So why would we think it's any different now? In fact, the evidence would show us it's worse. So right now and in the short term, AI is going to extend the gap between those who are enabled and those who are disenfranchised, those who have a voice and those who have no voice. So technology is democratized in some ways, but it is also sort of anti-democratic or anti-equitable in many others. And left unchecked, the outcome is only likely to be beneficial for a few.
So some broad agreement on a bleak outlook.
Well, the key thing is the word "we." What is the society that we want?
So it's not bleak, because you can recontextualize it more broadly. We've had 40 years of organizations treating people as things, and the result of that is a fractured social contract. So organizations struggle for engagement because our invested energy, the brilliance that we have, we are choosing to spend in other places. And social and collaborative technology and social context enables us to do this. So people are DJs, people run Etsy shops, people start up cycling clubs, people do a whole ton of stuff. They crowdsource books and records. They do all these incredible things. So our ability to be invested is enabled. Our ability to be creative and imaginative and productive is radically enabled. So there are losers, but the losers may also just be legacy organizations. So it's not an entirely bleak view.
Very fair. I like that. Do you think there is a risk, though, that lots of organizations may be losing out on some of the inventiveness that they could be getting from maybe long-standing employees that don't necessarily demonstrate in role this hierarchy?
Yeah, I mean, much of my core work explores this. So we see people belong to many different communities in many different spaces. They trade in social currencies. They do great work that you cannot buy for money. And so there's an irony in this, that at the very moment when many of the organizations I work with are looking for something extra, they're saying, bring your brilliance, bring your ideas, bring your knowledge, at the very time when they've dealt this kind of terminal blow to models of engagement. Because why would I do that? We see in the trust research that people trust technology organizations give them less than they trust social technologies. We see that people feel that they belong within different spaces. It's like that. This is why, for me, I always try to zoom out, view AI in that broader context. People want agency, individual agency. So top thing, they want freedom, they want agency, they want to be able to experiment, they want to be seen, they want their voice to be heard. That's all they want. The more you nail them down, the less they are happy and the less they will give you.
This viewpoint of what we might want for humanity and society is this, and the lack of engagement and effective societal apathy. Is that more of a Western-centric view? Because we also have to think about that some of this technology is global, it's accessible globally, and we may then be looking at power dynamics globally shifting if particular countries do have an apathy and an engagement problem and other countries don't. So where does that view go?
Absolutely. So you do see some differences, which is interesting. Of course, you see differences in the way some of these technologies are deployed and in models of power and control and models of community and belief and belonging. So we see variation in all of that. But we do see some common trends. I'm working on a book at the moment that's pretty fragile work, I would say, which is called A Planetary Philosophy, which really is looking at questions of identity and belief and belonging and citizenship within this broader context. And we do see some common trends where notions of nation, which are typically built around infrastructure and taxation and security, are expensive models of citizenship. So it requires a big state and big infrastructure. But we're also seeing conflict is being held differently. Conflict is less likely to be between big fleets of tanks and aircrafts. It's more sort of sub-threshold level conflict that we're seeing. We're seeing many organizations essentially acting as nations. So in the pandemic and through some of the political upheaval around the world, we've seen organizations stepping forward, saying very clearly, we will protect you, you belong with us, we will keep you safe. We see that infrastructure, which we pay tax for, is increasingly being replaced by digital infrastructure, which we may pay subscription for or pay for with our personal data. So again, for me, this speaks to how many of our old ways of understanding are breaking down. And in a very real sense, you can be a citizen of Apple or of Google or of Lego, or you can have marvelous dominant cultural influence. So we're probably seeing an unbundling of these massive structures, organizations and nations and so on. And we're seeing the emergence of more subscription-based models, which makes sense. I mean, it's happened with our telephone contracts where stuff has been unbundled. So why wouldn't it happen with our notion of citizenship? So you already see it. You could already subscribe for cheap digital rights in certain countries around the world. You could already sort of pay for things differently. I think we'll see that more broadly.
It'd be really good to see what the correlations are between those things and how adoption of some of this unbundling model varies in, for example, India versus the UK, or some very collectivist cultures versus some very individualistic cultures. Yeah. That would be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
I think latest
For another time.
that other day. Yeah. I mean, you see the impact on engagement in the UK where you haven't got that great individualism with engagement is so 1 in 10 people are actually actively engaged at work. And there is that huge cost to GDP, whether that becomes a cost to my Lego subscription or whichever data I start to buy from. But yeah, I just think it is clearly going to have an impact, and the way that we engage with these things is going to constantly evolve and present a massive challenge. Well, God, I'm back to say I'm sort of blown away with that conversation. AI has definitely taken away a lot of that cognitive processing that I've been doing, but I do feel like there is that cognitive depletion in some ways of using AI.
I done an MIT study on that last week.
Yes, it's that. This is your brain on AI. Yeah. But you see any of that? You're worried about any of these, the impact that might have on people as they try to acquire new skills and they're using the very tool that's going to undermine that?
I think the key word is people, right? What I said earlier about model distribution, how you use these tools, how you use any tools. Technology is a mediating medium between man and the environment. How are you using these things to do the things you need to do? Are you creative? Are you ambitious? Are you pushing yourself and using all of the tools at your disposal to achieve your means? Or are you trying to make funny cat videos using Sora, right? Very different use cases. And if you're outsourcing your thinking to anything, doesn't matter what it is, your friend, your neighbor, your dog, ChatGPT, anything.
Yeah, I'll take that one on the chin, that's for sure.
I think, fears about cognitive decline are somewhat overblown because, at an evolutionary level, humans haven't changed much in a couple of 100,000 years. We're sort of we're fairly slow to evolve. So, you could counter that, let's say, how we can see the beauty in all this. So despite all of our fears about Gen AI, what it does is it liberates aspects of creativity. It liberates us to explore and experiment using voices that were previously hidden to us. if you put that alongside broader features of the social age, such as identity becoming more fluid and contextual, you see that, beyond organizations, these technologies can give us great joy. They can give us great creative expression, which is something really that differentiates us from the other animals. We developed language, and when we developed language, we developed the ability to imagine multiple possible alternative conceptions of the truth. So that cognitive leap is what enabled us to say, imagine if we didn't spend our time sitting in trees, chasing mammoths. What if we built a village? What if we built a farm? What if we specialized? What if you did this and I did that and we traded? So we still have that advantage, that cognitive advantage is with us. And these tools maybe lead to a radical redistribution of social equity. Maybe they prove to be a thing which rewires us fundamentally. But there's a lot of joy to be found in it as well.
Fantastic. So one final thing, talking to obviously people in HR, L&D, potentially, if we're looking at driving performance in organizations, what's the one thing you would sort of encourage people to do tomorrow that they might not be doing today?
To drive performance.
Yeah.
Measuring performance.
Just measure it.
Yeah.
Start measuring it.
You're not measuring it. Most people aren't. But how can you drive it if you're not measuring?
Yeah, that's easy enough. Good.
That's probably the most useful answer. I'll give this
Yeah.
slightly different one. I kind of have a rule of two at the moment. So if you see the same thing shared twice, stop reading it and stop sharing it. So carry yourself into a new space where you can hear something different. The general quality of dialogue around generative AI is extremely poor. And the reason for that is we have rapidly and unintentionally removed permission to be ignorant. And our ignorance is one of the great drivers of our curiosity. It's entirely unacceptable today to say, I don't really understand what this is. We are judged and excluded for doing so. So, yeah.
Great stuff. Well, ultimately, I hope that's the aim of the podcast, on uncovering some of these challenges and help people make sense of what's happening around us. But thank you very much, both of you, for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for joining. I've been Pete. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you both.